Hello and welcome. My name is Tesha and I'm the owner of the Cajun Girl Patterns. Today I'm going to show you how to sew the nursing pillow cover sewing pattern. In order to make this, you will need to purchase my pattern in my shop, and that's linked below. So this is what we're going to be making, this nursing pillow cover with the zipper, and it fits this nursing pillow, the Boppy. It's the Bare Naked Original. And again, I'll link all of that in the notes below. You're also going to need my pattern, which I just mentioned. You're going to need about a yard to a yard and a quarter of fabric and a 24-inch zipper. The other thing you want to do before you get started is make sure that you print the pattern pieces. There's 2 pieces. And make sure that they're printed to the right scale. If you don't have it printed to the right scale, it's never going to fit, because you get a nice flat even fit, a very tight fit with this pillow cover. So you want to make sure that it's printed the right scale. So the width should be 2.5 on this connector piece. That's really important. And if the width is 2.5, then the length will be correct. The other thing is, from this line across, it should be 12.75 inches. And from the top to the bottom, this line should be 19.75. So make sure that it's printed to the right scale. So this pattern is an intermediate level pattern. It's lots of curves that you have to sew, and the zipper is set in the curve. So it's a little bit trickier for beginners, but don't let it intimidate you. If you really want to try the pattern, go ahead and give it a shot. But I marked this as intermediate because it is a little bit trickier. It's really important that the zipper go in the curve though, because when you are holding the baby, you know, this goes around your tummy and you're holding the baby, you don't want the zipper to be on your legs or on the baby at the top. So I thought it was really important to have the zipper on the curve, and this pillow will give you a really tight fit. It fits really nicely for this particular nursing pillow. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. So now here we have the pattern pieces, and these are printed at full scale. And you can see they're very large, and it was very difficult for me to get all of the steps in the camera where you could see them. So I printed the pattern at half scale, just so it'd be 50%, and it'd be a lot easier math for me to do. But I'm going to show you all the steps with the smaller scale, but you're going to do exactly the same thing using the regular scale pattern. If you have any questions, just let me know along the way. But what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of the main body piece, which is piece 1, and they're cut on the fold, and you're going to need 2 pieces of that. And then you have the connector 2 piece, and that's flat cut, and you're just going to need 1 of those. So here we have the pieces cut. We have 2 main body pieces and 1 connector piece. The next thing we're going to do is mark the stitching line on the connector 2. And the way I do that is just by cutting along this line, the dotted line, and marking it using a friction pen. The friction pens are amazing because they're heat soluble. As soon as you apply heat, they disappear, which is really, really cool. So you just want to cut along this line, and you can mark this any way that you want, but I just have found that this is the easiest way to mark the stitching line. And then you just pull up this little tab, and I always mark it on the wrong side of the fabric, and go in with your pen. Again, I'm using a friction pen, and I'll link those in the bottom of the video. They're amazing. Just let me zoom in here so you can see. The connector 2 piece, we're going to mark the stitching line on this side. So let me just show you what that looks like. So here the stitching line has been marked, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this pattern is symmetric, so you don't have to cut another V. You can just flip it and mark it the same way you did the other side. And then every side, on my pattern, it's 1/4 of an inch, but on yours, it should be 1/2 inch in from each side of the legs. Oh, you know what? I'm not in the camera. Let me pull this back so you can see. It should be 1/2 inch from each side. Like I said, mine's 1/4, but that's because I printed it at half scale. So 1/2 inch from all sides. And then that's marked. You're going to go ahead and mark the main body pieces. And this is for the zipper placement. So you just need to know where that needs to be marked. And I just mark all the layers all the way through on this main body piece. Again, using the friction pen, because I find these are amazing. As soon as heat hits them, and the line just disappears. So this has been my favorite marking tool. But go ahead and mark all the layers all the way through. If you have something that you can't put heat on, you'll need to use a different marking system. So now that all that's marked, you can set that aside and we'll move to the next section. Now we're going to get the zipper out. I'm using a 12-inch zipper, but you should be using a 24-inch zipper. And we're going to start by clipping the edges. You don't want to clip past the zipper pull at the top. We're not going to clip anywhere up here past there, but you're going to clip along the edges about 1/8 of an inch in down all the sides. And this is going to help the zipper lie in the curve, because this zipper is placed on a curve. So we need it to have a little bit of give as we're sewing it. So you're going to clip all the way down both sides, just like I've shown here, with just little tiny clips about 1 inch apart. We're not going to do the tape past the zipper pull or past the zipper stop on the other end. So leave all that tape uncut. It's not necessary. It's not going to be sewn. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to the next step. So now we have the main body piece with the right side of the fabric and the zipper placement marked. Make sure the zipper is right side up, and you're going to match that to the right side of your main body piece. And you're going to put the zipper pull right along that dot, and then you're going to bend the zipper along the curve until you get to the other end, and the zipper stop should be in line with the marked dot on the other side. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to pin it, but I find it easier to just take it to the machine and sew it, but I'll show you what this looks like. I'll go ahead and take the time to pin it. So now we have sewn the zipper in place, and I sewed it using about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I stopped at the zipper pull and the stop. So now you can see it's attached, and at the very last step, we will finish sewing the zipper on top by rolling the fabric up and stitching along the top. But for now, we just have it kind of basted in place. So the next step is by placing the connector piece. Make sure that you have the right sides facing each other, and you're going to line up the corner edge as shown here. Make sure you line that up with the piece 1. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Make sure the edge of the connector piece and the main body piece are aligned. And it doesn't look like it'll fit, but it will. So you're just going to ease it around when you're sewing it on the machine. You're going to start stitching at the point of the V. Let me zoom in so you can see this. You're going to start stitching at the point of the V. This is the stitching line. Stitch down the leg, a 1/2 inch seam allowance around, stop here, stitch down the V, and end at the point. Very important that that's how you. And now you can see I've stitched it on the machine, starting at the V, down the leg, a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I use a 1/4, but again, you're going to use a 1/2 inch. And then you just want to clip the curves. So go around and clip all the curves about 1 inch just to help the piece lie flat against the pillow. So be very careful, don't stitch into the seam allowance. So do that all the way around, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So the next thing you're going to do, let me zoom out here, is place the 2 pieces, the main body pieces, with the right side facing. And we're going to stitch the connector piece to the other main body fabric. So make sure you line up the edges just like you did in the other step. So the corners are aligned. And again, you want to align this on the opposite edge. And you're just going to be sewing one of the connector pieces to the main body fabric, and you want to align the edges just like you did before. And then once you get all that aligned, you're going to stitch in the same way that you stitched the other piece. Start at the point of the V, go down the leg, a 1/2 inch seam allowance around, stop at the other side, and then stitch down to the V. Okay, I just want to make sure that you really can see this step. It's really important. Let me zoom out. So you have the 2 pieces that are going to be connected by this middle connector piece. Okay, you're only going to stitch through the connector piece and the main body fabric piece. You don't want to stitch them all together. So here I have stitched the pieces together, and you can see what it'll look like. And you can see how it makes a nice V, and it helps the pillow cover lie really flat against the pillow. Really important. So you want to go ahead and clip the curves like you did before. So you want to make sure it looks like this, and we're going to clip the curves all the way around. And you can wait and clip the curves until, you're completely done. You can do this at any step, but go ahead and clip all the way around. And then the next thing we're going to do is base the other side of the zipper to the main body piece. So make sure everything is aligned, and go ahead and put right sides together. And then we're going to stitch the same way we stitched the other piece. Right sides together, start at the zipper pull, and make sure everything's lined up really well. Start at the zipper pull and stitch an 1/8 of an inch to base the zipper in place, and then stop at the zipper pull. Let me just unzip it so you can kind of see how that should fit. So here we have the zipper stitched in place and basted. Let me cut these threads here. So now you can see that everything is sewn together, and you want to take a minute to make sure the zipper is okay. And then you're going to pin the 2 main pieces together, the body pieces. Align the raw edges, right sides together, and you're going to start stitching at the point of that V. And then you're going to stitch all the way around the raw edge using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and stopping at the mark, the zipper placement dot, and the zipper pull. And you're going to do this on both sides. And you're not going to sew the zipper tape into the seam allowance. The little tails of the zipper tape, don't sew those into the seam allowance. So here we have stitched the main pieces together. Remember, we started at the point of that V and stitched around to the zipper placement. And now we're going to cut the excess fabric from the V. So you can cut along the legs of the V and just cut that excess fabric off. And you can do it on both sides. Now the last thing that we're going to do is turn the nursing pillow cover right side out, and we're going to top stitch the zipper. So you can use a chopstick or a turning tool to really push out the corners to get a nice crisp edge. And now we're going to tuck in the ends of the zipper tape on both sides. And then you're going to stitch just like you regularly top stitch a zipper. You're going to stitch across the zipper pull, and then you're going to roll the fabric. It should be a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you should have some extra fabric to kind of roll the fabric across the top of the zipper. And then you're going to stitch all the way across, and then you're going to stitch across the pull edge and then back around. So here we have the pillow stitched and the zipper top stitch, and you can see you get a really nice crisp edge, and make sure the zipper isn't catching anywhere and everything's in place. And you can see where I top stitched it. It works out really well, and you get a nice cover that fits really well on the pillow. So please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks.